Hello, ladies. I wanted to hop on to the podcast. I'm about to head away for a few days and take some time away. But I wanted to get this podcast out because it's been on my mind and I have a lot to say. And it's regarding a post that I put out on Instagram. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And I wanted to just do more of a public overview of it in case you saw some of what was going on, or you read some of the comments, or maybe you had your own feelings about what I wrote that you didn't agree. So I wanted to clarify for those of you that are here and want to learn. You want to get on this bandwagon of moving past the past once you've left one of these relationships. If you're still in the relationship, we're not really talking about that here anymore. I have said everything that there is to say in all of these podcast episodes. If you want help and access to all of my coaching and courses and programs around identifying and exiting a narcissistic abuse relationship, then I have an all-access pass that you can get a hold of for a 1-year pass to all of my programming. You can get that at the link in my bio. So if my show notes here. So if you are in that place, then this will still pertain to you because maybe it's something you need to hear now. But I'm really speaking to women who are ready to move past this. He's toxic, he's narcissistic, but I'm in this awful situation, or I'm this, I'm that. It's just the victim mentality. And while I have compassion, I also, I've kind of reached my endpoint to have empathy for all of this because, we have to be able to eventually look ourselves in the mirror and realize the truth that we are the common denominator. Whether it's a string of toxic relationships we've been in or one long-term one where we're not learning our lesson that we are part of this dysfunctional dynamic and we need to remove ourselves from it. While that could just be taking some intentional space to do your own inner work. And this is what I talk about in my Take Space course, is how do you do that? So, there's so much you can do. Just going on and on and on about how they are the problem. I think it's probably because I've been doing this for so long. I've just hit my own level of saturation with it. And that's why I'm not wanting to talk about that anymore. Because even when you're in a situation that maybe feels hard to get out of, who's going to do it for you? You can sit there all day and say, I don't have the money and I don't have this and I need a job and he's this and he trauma bond. Come on. We have to stop that at some point, right? It's very victim-y, right? It's self-victim and it also is its own form of narcissism, right? Me, right? I'm this, I'm the victim, I'm innocent, right? This is not to absolve anyone for their abusive behavior or bad behavior, by the way. That is not at all what I'm doing. I'm here to help you focus on what is within your power and control. And the only thing that is what you choose to do. Your commitment to changing. So the post is, The Problem Is You. That's the title. When you're being treated in horrible ways and the person who's supposed to love you and protect you is harming you, and you believe he is the problem, this is your dysfunctional trait. The real problem is you don't have any healthy self-worth to get up and go. Instead, you try to fix yourself while he continues to believe that he is fine just the way he is. If you have a problem with him, then that's on you. And so you continue to stay and lose a little more of yourself every day. So who's the real problem? Because you cannot change them. That's really what comes down to it. And so with this post, it got a lot of, I just don't have the energy to tussle with people in the comments. I don't care. I honestly, if you completely miss my point to that degree, you don't belong here. I just don't care enough. If you want to learn more about my actual work and what I've done over the last 6 years, then you listen to my podcasts or you read past more than one single post and decide that is encapsulating all of my body of work I've done for the last 6 months, right? So you get those kind of people that just they're looking for reasons to be offended. They want attention. They want feedback for their victim mentality. They want to argue for their limitations. And I'm not here for that. And so when I posted this, there were a lot of women that said, that they got it. So one was, it took me a long time to realize that I was allowing the shitty treatment. Removing him is the answer, not trying to change him or complain about the treatment. I haven't been this rested and at peace since that realization. I highly recommend it. Happy healing. So many of the women on that, and I get not everybody's on the same level, not everybody's on the same path. That's fine. But I'm also not here to speak to everybody. I don't want to. I want to speak to women that are at that place. It's exhausting working with women who are not in that place. I don't want to drag anyone. I'm not dragging anyone. You can decide, yeah, I want that. I want to let go of this past shit and put down this heavy sack of boulders that I'm carrying and actually forge forward to healing. Other comments were, wow, this hits home. We can't control other people, but we can control how we respond and the boundaries we set with them. Wow, this is powerful. This because we can talk about the other person all day, but why didn't we leave at the first sign of disrespect? This is it. And that doesn't mean that at the time you didn't know what you didn't know, but we have to take responsibility for what we didn't know. And then we have to do the work to change it, right? And then there's these other people that post things that just take you completely off topic. One woman said, whilst I get what you're saying, I feel that saying who's the real problem is belittling and critical of all those people who are stuck in controlling abusive situations that they may not even realize yet. They may not be able to leave for a variety of reasons, and they need our support to enable them to leave, not hard words about being the problem. And then, of course, I left that one because I responded to it. But really, it's, that's the typical mentality, right? What about these poor wounded souls that don't even know what's happening to them? Well, they're not at this level yet, and that's okay. Okay, I have a lot of content on this podcast for people who are not sure what's going on, right? So what we can all do together as a collective is, if you know someone, a coworker, someone that you're working with, a client, anyone. I've had therapists recommend my podcast to their clients. And so we can spread the word. You can send a podcast episode. You can find something. So yeah, there is help out there for women who don't get it. There's so much of it. There's no excuse really anymore. There's so much information out there online to know what's toxic and what's not, right? So again, this may not be the message for everyone, and that's okay. I don't know how many times I have to reiterate that, but I had to tell myself that, that this isn't for every single woman in every single situation. This self-accountability is for you when you're at a level where you're ready to do that. You're ready to take ownership. And some women never will. Some women will continue to blame the abuser, blame the narcissist, because it takes accountability off of them. It's not super nice to be able to get to a place where you can admit, wow, I made some bad choices. I think feeling ashamed and kind of embarrassed is part of the process of healing. That it's like, I really, when I see that, and I see that, and I see this, and I see that, yeah, it's not comfortable. It's easier to just say, well, they did that to me, rather than I tolerated it. I accepted it because on some level we did. And yes, that has something to do with programming, but still, who's going to change your programming? You're the only person. So as grown adults, we have to take responsibility for our programming and past. Another one commented, I'm surprised about this post. It completely ignores social, cultural, political, biological, economical, and many other issues. Before expressing it's on you, show the broader awareness and compassion, or this falls into the treating individuals as though they live in a vacuum. Absurd. So this person is asking me to include all of those factors in one Instagram post. Like, do you see how silly this is? Like, it gets to the point where, I don't even care about being politically correct anymore. It's just annoying to me now. I don't care. I honestly, if that's the way you want to see something, please have fun with that and go down your rabbit hole of trying to look at your social, cultural, political, biological, economical, all of it. We all have that. We all have that. We all have certain, complications or other factors that are at play. We all do. All of us, every single one of us. And so instead of me talking about those issues that you can't do anything about, it's the past, you can't do anything about your social culture, you can't do anything about the government or the economics of anything, all you can do is control yourself. And so my message from the very beginning has always been about do your own work, focus on yourself. Don't get bogged down into the 1,000,001 reasons why you can't change your life, because then guess what? You won't be able to, right? And it's really just self-perpetuating self-victimization. I'm talking to the woman who has left this relationship, or she could be on the cusp and knows that she needs to go. I have had women who literally are on the door to leaving. They have a home, they have somewhere to live, or they get their spouse out of the house. I have worked with women during the exact transition of them leaving, from the point to like leaving a Dear John letter or whatever they do, right? I've worked with women on those during those transitions, and I love doing that because that's where you really can really take charge of your life from there. But when you're in it, it's really hard to take charge of your life. You have to, like, you're going to have to take full responsibility to change that. But you won't be able to do that when you're just sitting there complaining about how they're treating you and doing nothing about it. And so really what I'm passionate about is helping women rise above it. Don't get bogged down into the minutia of it and the complications of, it's going to take forever to heal, and I've got all this baggage, and I don't think I'm ever going to heal. I'm never going to get over this. That's all bullshit, because it's true, you can. Does that mean it doesn't have an impact on you, or that you don't have feelings about it? No. But, if you feel like you want to get some kind of quote unquote revenge, you've got some healing to do. First of all, I think that's part of the healing journey, is that anger piece. It's part of it. But then once you have worked through that, then you get to this place of peace and acceptance, and you don't want to blame anymore. And you just think to yourself, like, I set you free. I have no expectations that I'm going to ever see anything different of this person, that it's just going to be the way it is. And what point is there to continue allowing that to have power over your future? Yes, there is healing work to do on the other side. Of course there is, but it's very different healing work, because you actually have the capacity and ability to do that healing work because you're out of the unhealthy environment, right? So you can start to bloom and flourish. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. It certainly had not been for me, with health stuff and complications and being a single mom of 2 teens, like it's a lot. It is. However, when you continue to devote to your growth and healing, and sometimes that healing means rest, sometimes that healing means unplugging. It might mean taking some really intentional time, if you can, off of work or off of your business, which I have done. And I am doing this coming week, taking several days off. So you really have to be intentional about your time, and you may be busier than ever when you're doing everything on your own, but you probably always have been. When I speak to women in this scenario, it's like, yeah, it's busy and I'm doing everything, but I was doing everything in the relationship also. So you have to remember or remind yourself of that you never really had a 50-50 partnership with, doing things as a team, feeling like you have the other person and you're doing half the work because they're doing the other half, whatever that might be. It's a very different thing than carrying all of the load and everything and financially all at once. All right, so a few points I want to make before I finish up is we have to remember that they are just being, and they were just being, and they are just being who they are, right? They don't think that they have a problem. That's who they are. And where did we ever get the idea that we had the power to change someone? Like, how ridiculous is that? So that is number one. What kind of faulty thinking led me to believe that I could change someone who is behaving in such horrible ways. Make them stop hurting me, and then complain and vent to everyone around me how awful they are, and feeling like shit every day, and saying, I can't leave, I have this 1,000,001 reasons why, instead of going, oh, what if that's all a bunch of bullshit, and I can actually bust through that and get the hell out of this situation, right? So that's the first, is we have to agree that we co-created the dynamic. Yes, there's the aggressor who is narcissistic or has traits of narcissism. That is a thing. Like, it really is a thing. So I'm not here to say that it's not. I know that it's a thing. However, when you have left, you need to put that aside and close the book. Does that mean you don't have some unpacking to do around it? Of course you do, and you will. But it's more about realizing, I'm closing that chapter, because so many women just carry this bitterness and anger and resentment around with them after they've left. So then what's happening in that? You are carrying them with you. You've left them, but they're still with you. Right? So you've got that anger that you're just internalizing. Right? Or who's said that quote? It just came to me. Anger is trying to put, your negativity toward the other person, but instead you're feeding yourself the poison. It's something like that. I botched it. So basically, it's like, I'm angry at him because he did this, that, and the other, and I'm staying angry at him. But you're actually poisoning yourself with feeling that and hanging on to it. You feel it and release it, yes. But hanging on to it and carrying it around like a heavy cloak and wearing it like a cloak of like a badge, like, I'm so angry, he wronged me. Who wants to? Ladies, we don't want to, be in our 40s and 50s and look like we're 80, right? Like, this could be like aging mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Being in anger and anxiety and trying to control is exhausting, and it does age you, and it makes you sick. It will throw off your hormones. It will throw off everything. It will throw off your creativity. You may not be as productive at work, right? And that's a huge price to pay. Huge price to pay. And the other point that kept coming up in the comments, and that, it's a pretty broad explanation, right? There are explanations for why women end up staying in abusive relationships. Of course there are. I guess I'm not denying any of that. I'm just wanting to offer a different path forward to women who resonate with this. Okay, so I'm not here to belittle or minimize how difficult it can be to get out. Because yes, there are many factors involved. I'm not speaking from non-experience here. I'm not speaking from, being ignorant to that. But I also know that there are certain types of women like myself who we don't want to stay stuck. We don't want to stay down. We don't want someone else to control us. We have this like inner fire, this inner power, and we're driven and we want to move through it and move past it. We don't want to stay stuck ruminating about the past and going on and on to everyone else about, ain't it awful? Like, we don't want to do that. It feels like shit. And yeah, you can go through a period of that time doing that. But, if you're still doing that months after leaving, you're still venting about what he's doing, what he's not doing, what you think he should be doing differently, then you're wasting your energy and you're exhausting everyone else around you, to be sure. So the moral of this message is we need to take accountability for every single piece of our role in everything that happens in our life. This doesn't mean we're taking accountability for others' behavior or that we are not realizing where the issues originated, but the problem happens when we take a stance that it's all them, that we had no role to play in it. And there is a lot of this, well, they have a mask on and they this and they that. Well, they do, but they don't. Like, let's be real. You had inklings very early on when they were on their quote unquote best behavior that, wow, they could be really nasty, or they don't take accountability, that big fights and arguments start every time you try to bring up something that they did. And at the time, you just think, well, maybe it was me. Or you allow yourself to think, oh, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I did take it wrong. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe this, maybe that. So we have to take accountability for those times that we did that. We also have to take accountability for deciding to go further in a relationship with someone like that, to allow ourselves to get pregnant by someone like that, or move in with someone like that, buy a house, get married, start a business. How many choices did you make on top of knowing that there was something not right there, that there's a lot of conflict and a lot of chaos and a lot of turmoil, and you still decided to move forward anyways, and a lot of times very quickly. These relationships move very fast, where you are married, sharing a house with a couple of kids in like 2 years flat, right? Like that's not unheard of. And so we have to take responsibility for our tendency to jump into things head first without taking years, like literally years, to get to know someone before you commit in such a way. These are things that I myself have had to take accountability for in my patterning, right? So I'm not talking about this like a you should wagging finger thing. A lot of it has come from my own personal experience as well. So I don't speak lightly about this taking accountability for our role. Being able to say, I jumped too quickly. I was looking to be rescued. I wanted a man to save me. I wanted to feel important and loved and cared for. And I was willing to put up with the ways that I was treated because I thought that I couldn't take care of myself on my own, or that I needed to have someone by my side, right? So if we can actually look at that and realize, so I tolerated this, that, and the other because of my wanting this. And this is very common for women wanting to be rescued by a man, especially if you have father wounds around a father that wasn't taking care of you emotionally or financially even, right? Or you felt like they were kind of there but not, that they weren't there for you in the deeper ways for support. So then you're craving that. Or you might have a father that was absent even though they were in the home. Or when there was a divorce, that they kind of distanced and went their own way and started their own family. That's going to create father wounds. So when you have that, then you are seeking to have a do-over in another relationship. So this is just setting us up for failure, right? We're using another human being to work our past trauma or unmet needs on. We're like, hey, can you be my step in surrogate father while I work through my shit? Like most guys would be like, no, right? And that doesn't mean you can't have a relationship that brings healing and growth. Of course you can, right? We never know how long a relationship is going to last. Like I remember saying this from the very beginning, like I don't believe in forever. I never have. And when we get that idea in our head that we have to make a decision because this is forever, yikes, right? I remember saying that 20 years ago. And I said it out loud and I was like, wow, that doesn't sound very good, but it's true, right? Like, why do we think that everything has to be forever? And so we stay in situations that we've outgrown because I made this commitment. No, if you have outgrown it and it is unhealthy and it's keeping you small and it's preventing you from growing, or you're allowing it to, because it's kind of like you're in this container that you're trying to expand out of, but then you've got somebody controlling you, belittling you, limiting you, fucking with you, gaslighting you, like pressuring you, nitpicking, criticizing, like all of it. It's really hard to expand yourself when you're in that environment. But when you get out of that environment and you start doing those things, you have rapid, like quantum shifts of like 1 minute you will be on the floor, like, what do I do? And then you are like, oh my God, like I see everything so differently. So I promise you there is that awakening. Often this comes with a dark night of the soul when you are literally forced to sit with yourself and you hit your personal rock bottom, and then you have to go from there and do your healing work. Because we probably have, a lot of us here have just gone from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, achieving relationships. And when we stop doing that and we see our pattern and we don't keep doing the same things over and over and over again, we get to experience change. So that wraps up my riff here. I didn't really have notes or a point. I just wanted to share. If you want to check out that Instagram post I'm talking about, I'll put the link in the show notes here. And a quick plug before I go, I am accepting 5 new women into a one-on-one opportunity to work with me very closely. If you'd like to be considered for one of these spots, head to the link in my show notes here to start that application process. If you have left a narcissistic relationship and you're feeling a lot of emotions and having difficulty dealing with what's coming up for you, and you just feel like you need the right guidance to move you to the next level, you're craving inner peace, you want to have vibrant health, physically and mentally, you want to up-level your finances and your career and have the ability to be more present with your kids, this is exactly what we'll be working through inside of this container. Once again, you can head to the link in the show notes or head straight to leanneoten.com/apply. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care.